Welcome to another video from Golden Pennies Prospecting. Today we're going to be showing you some footage from a little trip to Grimes Creek in Idaho, where we'll be digging through some tailings piles and chasing some crevices inside those tailings piles. Hope you enjoy.
Back out here today at, this is my second day along the Grimes Creek up in Idaho. And I found a spot that is not part of a claim, and been working along here. It's a beautiful area. Just give you a look at the surroundings. So yesterday I worked quite a bit, pretty much exclusively in this pit that was started some time ago. It's full of pine leaves and so on, so I'm guessing, you know, at least a season ago, maybe longer. And I worked my way down into that little hole there, where I'm going to be widening that hole today and hopefully be able to get a little deeper. Just right now it's just too hard to get a shovel full of material out of there. But it was looking like it was getting better the further I went down, and so I'm going to spend my time here. Not a bad place to be for the day. And I am on, I think, my third or fourth bucket of that darker clay material. It's getting stickier as I go, but I've taken out some pretty good sized rocks in there, and I'm going to go through these. I probably won't show you any updates until the end there. This is the last of the pans from that fourth bucket, and I would say the deeper we go, the better it's getting. The pan before this was not quite as good, but it also had quite a few colors, and the pieces are getting a little bigger. So I think we're going to keep working our way down. Just to give you a little idea of how deep we are. It's only from the start of the hole here, 2.5 feet down, but I think we're getting into some better gold, so we're going to keep going down. We might have to widen this out so we can actually get in more easily and more safely. But I think this is going to be the area that we work. Okay, I think this will be bucket number 5. Got some pretty big pieces out of that hole and pretty rounded. Now I'm going to go ahead and wash these, because a lot of times gold's actually stuck, especially to the rough edges of these rocks. It's definitely worth keeping them, carrying them up to the river and washing them. Yep, I'd say down is definitely paying off as far as bigger pieces. Still not big, but quite a few. That's definitely the best pan so far, and that's just one pan out of the top of that 5th bucket. So the more we go down, the better it's getting. Slowly but surely it's getting better. Pieces are getting bigger and more plentiful. That's the 2nd pan out of that 5th bucket. Well, that is about 6 of those little 3-gallon buckets, not quite full, of dirt panned. Not a bad little amount of gold for a few hours of playing in the dirt. A slightly different view of it just by shaking it into that little crescent there. Pretty happy with that for the start. It's only taken about 30 minutes to dig myself a little bit of a wider landing, and as I'm digging down, I have noticed that this upper layer here, this appears to have been around for probably since it was mined, at least the 2nd time, if not originally. And then as I go down further, I notice that there's a layer of wet but not decomposed pine needles, which makes me think that maybe someone dug this down over a period of time, a couple of seasons or something of that sort. But just beyond those pine needles, there doesn't appear to be any mixture of material, so I think they stopped really at that level. And that's right, just a few inches lower is this burn line. If you look around here, you see that, and that's definitely charcoal. I was reading recently that back in the 1800s, when they were originally mining this, because the access to water was so seasonal, they started mining 24 hours a day and lit multiple big fires to essentially light the night sky so they could mine. And right below this burn level is where the first round rocks start to show up. Now there are chunky rocks in there too, but I'm not finding any of these river rocks higher up. So I think that this may be where the camp was, or an unprocessed pocket. That's what I'm hoping. And so I'm certainly going to pour a bunch of energy into trying to get into what maybe no one ever touched. If you look here as I'm just dragging my pick, yeah, see there's another round river rock right there. But the soil is silty and clay-like. I don't know, it almost doesn't feel to me like this would have been normal topsoil. So maybe this was the first run of tailings piles way back when, and perhaps this was second run or something. I'm not sure, but there's definitely a change below this burn line in the type of soil and the consistency and so on. Well, I think I might know why nobody went any deeper. This entire area that I dug out, so far I haven't found the edges of it. That is one solid piece of granite. I don't think there's any way of getting around it. Well, maybe around it, but probably impossible to lift out of here without heavy equipment. So I'm not sure what my plan is going to be. But I took the little bit of material I just scraped off the surface here and threw it in my pan. I'm going to mix a little more that was about an inch higher in with this and run that, and we'll see if maybe that piece of granite acted like bedrock, or if maybe the good stuff's under it. All right, that's a little bit we're going to run. Came right off the top of that piece of granite. Well, that's about the same size you've been using all throughout yesterday. So we'll compare what we find in here with what we found in the pans that were below that level. Okay, so we panned it down to this little bit. This is the dirt from right on top of that big, giant, super flat piece of granite. And by now, with the other pans, I'd be seeing gold, little gold sticking out in the corners, but I'm not seeing that here, so that's not got me very excited. Let's see what we can find here. Oh, let's see, no. All right, one tiny piece of flour gold there on the right-hand portion, right in there, tiny piece. There's another tiny piece right in there. Alright, another, wow, super tiny. Another tiny piece against the back. There's a slightly bigger piece popping out. But nothing, well, there's quite a few colors in there actually, but they are very, very fine. Now see, there's 4 or 5, something like that, plus the one that washed back in here somewhere. But that is not as good as what we were getting at the end of the day yesterday in the deeper part of the hole, just past that piece of bedrock. So I think we're going to have to maybe pile it down in that little hole now that we've made a bigger area to sit in and see what we find a little deeper. Not impressed with the bit that we found on top of that little bedrock, or I don't know if it's bedrock, but a big old flat piece of granite that I feel like was covered in sediment, either from maybe dredging or something, or perhaps from the river originally. Certainly it's been there a long, long time. Roots are growing across it. So we're going to use that as a landing spot and go ahead and dig around that deeper and see what's down below there. Well, this could either be very good or very bad. This giant piece of granite drops straight off into this hole. Then there are two big rocks, not bigger hopefully, nuggled, stuffed in here, and I got a little dirt off the top of those, and in between enough to about half fill this bucket. So we're going to give this a run and see what we're finding there, which would be about 5 or 6 inches below the last pan that we processed. Okay, this is from that first pan out of that crevice below. I'm starting to see a little bit of gold just peeking out there. Oh, almost washed one out there. Just right there at the lip. You see that? We'll get him back in here. Alright. Let's go ahead and see what we got in here. Well, more colors, but still very fine gold. Nothing exciting there. Maybe probably 20 colors in there, but small guys. Second pan out of that little crevice. Not as many pieces, maybe only 6 or 7, but bigger. Still not big, but bigger. I'm going to see if I can't pry those rocks out and go down deeper. Okay, we're digging down here. These are those 2 big rocks that are below this piece of granite, and I have hit another burn layer. So clearly humans have been down this deep at one time. So I'm digging through most likely some kind of discard pile from who knows how far back, and I'm just hoping that maybe they left a little something behind for me. I'm going to keep working on it regardless, because I know that it's not, at least recently, been reprocessed. First little pan just on those 2 little rocks. Some pretty decent number of colors. Next pan we're going to run is going to be this material that really has been, there's actually a groove underneath this big piece of bedrock here, a big piece of granite, and I've dug around a little bit here, around the sides, underneath, so this I expect would be the richest little bit so far. I don't think nearly as good as underneath these rocks, but that'll be the next pan we look at. Just a pan's worth that came off the top of that, out of that little crevice and underneath that big piece of bedrock, and let's pan it now. This is the last, what's left in the pan after panning out that 1 pan from those crevices. Just goes to show you, I can see a tad bit of gold in the corner there, but no idea what's in there. We're about to find out together. So let's put some water in there and see if we can move this around a little bit. A few little pieces, nothing too exciting. Alright, getting a little aggressive here, just trying to uncover it. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's great. You can see that in there. Definitely a higher quantity of bigger pieces. I also think I see a little lead BB in there, maybe. Perhaps. We're going to keep going. See what we get out of the crevice itself, as far down as we can go. So that's what we ended up with out of that little crevice. You can try to focus that in there. I just wanted to point out, there's a lot of mica still in here. And for those of you that are prospecting in an area where there's a lot of mica, sometimes it can be confusing. If you watch the mica, it moves around in the water quite easily, yet the gold sticks to the bottom. And the gold it's almost like it's glowing. I mean, obviously it's not glowing, but it almost has that effect, whereas the mica, it is reflective. It's shiny at one moment, then it rolls around, and the next moment it's not shiny. So that's the best way you can tell the difference. That being said, if you watch your very, very fine gold, that's the other thing to know. Sometimes your fine gold will float on top of the water, especially if you touch it with your finger. So while gold generally sticks to the bottom, sometimes the tiny pieces will float on the surface, and you'll have to just touch them and submerge them, and then they'll stick to the bottom again, and you'll know that it's gold. Okay, let's get a look at what we have here crevice-wise. Looks like it goes down quite a ways in there. If we get that material out, that'd be great. And back up underneath this little bit of rock here. More area to try to get into. I suspect if there are any gold pieces, that in that moist, soft clay sand material we pulled out, that probably that gold would have just worked its way down as it usually does. If it gets stuck on top of the rock here, then it might sit in a place like right here and settle, but once it gets in that crevice, it's going to go as far down as it possibly can. So I've got to do what I can to get in there good and deep. I'm not sure I have the right tools to do it, but that's the next project. Got about this much dirt. Did have a little bit of a collapse above, so there's some of the upper stuff mixed in there, but mostly I was able to scrape stuff out of here. So I'm hoping that we got a pretty good amount. It's hard to tell how deep that is. I'd say it's about 12 inches deep so far. That's about all that amounts to, not even a full classifier. I usually like to have my classifier heaped up a little bit. So not a lot of material, but we're going to run it and see what we find. Okay, we're panning out that little bit from the crevice, and already I'm seeing little specks in the corners there. Not a huge indication, but definitely encouraging. Alright, shook those gold flakes back into the middle a little bit so they wouldn't wash away on me as I work on some of these other little pebbles and so on. Now you'd almost think there's no gold because we're down to that last little bit. We're not seeing anything. There's something in there. Not the mother lode I was hoping for sure. Yeah, a few little specks here and there. There's one there, 3 or 4 right there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to go deeper. I certainly would want to hit whatever would be a false bedrock in that crevice, but I'm not sure I can get down deep enough. Well, as I'm working to clean out what's up underneath this ledge here, I'm pulling out burnt plant material. So it's very, very obvious that this big old rock was moved into place, after people had been here with campfires or burning or whatever else. I just can't imagine, unless maybe a burnt branch got washed under here and rotted away or something. But I would say the more I explore this, the less I feel like this is, unless I keep going down deeper, which is not likely to happen based on the way things are wedged in here. I really don't think I'm getting into any virgin territory at all. But I am going to keep working on cleaning out underneath this ledge here. In fact, I pulled this material out so far. I think I'll go ahead and run that through the pan, take a look at it. This is the last little bit from underneath that rock in between those lowers, and I already see some gold peeking out right there in the corner, which of course is always a good sign. But I'm going to vibrate that back into the center, try to bury it underneath everything. I'm just jiggling it with the very lowest part of that crescent basically pointing down. I will work a little bit on getting that out of there. It's always surprising. Oh, a little, whoa, hey now. Hey now, there we go. That's what we were hoping for, right there, baby. Not huge, but that right there is the size of gold I was hoping to find. Look at that, right there. That's from underneath that piece of granite, but on top of the other piece. So that obviously got wedged in there, and so far that's my biggest piece. Very nice. not sure how this video is going to turn out, but I'm trying to shoot a video just to show that crevice up underneath this big boulder. This is that boulder. There's the other crevice that goes down. And this is horizontal. So it's basically laying on top of this lower rock. And yeah, we're going to try to clean that out as best we can right in there. I think that's where that little picker came from. It's right up in there. Let's see what we can do. This is that next little bit from underneath that ledge, and just around the sort of the edge of it. You see all the black material in here. Lots, and some of it was actually charcoal, so don't know how to explain that. But we found a nice little piece in the last bit, so let's see what we find here. That's what we're looking at right now as far as the hole goes. Getting down there quite a bit, but I think we're about as far down as we can go. Before I go ahead and pan this out, so I've classified it, and there's definitely a lot of charcoal in here. And the last pan also had charcoal in it. That's the pan where we found that little picker. So let's see what's in here, what's in store for us. Okay, working this, I'm already seeing a little teeny piece peeking out in that corner. When you get that gold peeking out in the corner, it's best to vibrate this back down and get that gold right in the middle. That way it gets buried and it's less likely to get washed out with your other material. So vibrate that on down. Well, there it is again. Peeking out, looking at us. I'm going to give it that back and forth again. Washing out the pebbles. Keeping an eye on what else is going out. One pebble left. See some gold in there. I also see some small flakes working their way up. So I'm going to bring those back down. Work them all into the middle. There we go. Pull some of that sand out of there. Well, it's starting to peek out at me pretty quick. I got a pretty good water flow going here, and also little waves that come across. So I'm panning with the current at the back of the pan in this particular case. Try to keep, especially when I get low in the sand here, the last little bit, because I don't want a little wave to come in and knock all that out. Okay, so we're going to just call it good there. See what we might have. Do a little back and forth. You can see there's some gold in there, nothing big, but alright. Oops. I washed one down here. There's one there, if you can see those. Try to kind of get those together a little bit. A bunch of small ones. Nothing overly impressive, but probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 12 colors in there. Continuing to dig this area out. So there's our piece of large flat piece. There's the big groove. At the very end of this rock we found a way to dig her down, and we're hitting black material way down on the bottom and here along the side. Got a bunch here in the pan. So I would love it if someone who knows more about this, especially this area in Idaho, if you'd comment and tell us how in the heck this happens, because I don't really have a clue at this point. This is a little look at what came outside of that outside edge of that lower flat rock where the burnt material was. I'm going to go ahead and pan some more material here. Just want to show you where it's coming from. It's back up underneath this. It's about as far as I can get that in right now. Somewhere in there. Right underneath that piece of granite. I'm pretty sure that's where that bigger piece came from, so I'm just hoping I can reach back there far enough to maybe find some. This piece right here is flat, and it is going up underneath this horizontally, and there's about a 2-inch space there. So if anything got washed in here, I'm thinking it would land on this, and this acts like bedrock, so that's what I'm hoping for. That being said, this is all the material I've just pulled out, and I'm going to go ahead and pan it even though it's not a lot. Really just trying to dial in whether there's more and it's worth keeping going there or not. Well, all we got from underneath that crevice was 3 little pieces of flour gold, and so I'm not sure how much deeper I'm going to dig. There's a chance that bigger piece may have come from around the side of that nugget because I had some stuff falling in and so on, so I'm going to definitely check that out. Well, after a day and a half of digging in that hole and moving, I would say less than a yard of dirt, but somewhere in that ballpark, certainly a lot of work, and that is the end result, the ultimate haul from that amount of work. I wouldn't say that's all too impressive, but I sure as heck had a great time doing it, and it shows that even in those tailings piles left behind, that there's still plenty of gold to be found. So get out there and find yourself some. Well, that's my Grimes Creek gold in a little vial, and I would just encourage you to get out and fill your own vial. And don't forget to watch for more videos coming. Like and subscribe if you would, please. Have a great time hunting for treasure.